Welcome everybody back to the channel, and today a belated unboxing of Undaunted Battle of Britain, part of the next in the series of the Undaunted brand from David Thompson and Trevor Benjamin. I have most of the games in this series, Normandy, North Africa and Reinforcements as yet. The only one that I haven't played, although one of the guys at the club has it, is the Stalingrad game. But the Battle of Britain, for me, was going back to what made this a great series at the outset, from a price point, components and the game itself. So we actually had a game of this at the club last night. One of my friends has also got a copy. He kindly brought it along, so I didn't have to unbox this one until this video. And we had a really interesting first scenario game, which I'll come on to afterwards, and my thoughts around the game and its potential. But what I wanted to share with you first was an unboxing of the game itself, the components, and sort of give you a general overview of really what it looks like. So as always, you get a very good thick deep box, same style as the previous games. You get the usual blurb around what it's about, a bit of a taster of some of the components, etc. I'm just going to take the cellophane off so you're not getting too much reflection and feedback on the video. Let's just take that off first, and then you'll be able to see this a little bit easier. Okay, always better once you get that off. So importantly, in the game, it's similar deck building, age 14 plus, up to about an hour per game, 2 players, 116 cards, 31 map tiles, 4 dice, 58 tokens and a scenario booklet. And so you get a bit of a flavour of the quality of the components in there. But let's dive in. These games by nature are normally fairly stacked, with great quality stuff. So the colour schemes look very similar to the other games. You've got the rule book, you've got the scenario book, and then you get into some of the other goodies. But let's just have a quick look at the rule book first. I'm sure I'm not going to be disappointed to see it's in the usual kind of format. 23 pages, full colour, really nicely set out, and very easy to follow. And certainly from our initial game, by about halfway through the game, you're not looking in this rule book very much at all. Most of the rules are self-explanatory from the cards you're using. There's a few odd anomalies, particularly with some of the comms for squadrons, etc., where you've got some of the more unusual things like guide, coordinate, etc., that you may just need to refer back to. But that's the rules. And then you get one of these lovely scenario books, which is what makes the game. What I really like here is that, like the other Undaunted games, they take you on a journey. They take you on a journey to learn the game and learn the history, without it being too heavy and too complicated. So you've got an example scenario here, first contact, everything you need here, map, etc. So in a nutshell, as a deck building game, you will have a deck and a supply. The deck will be the cards that are being used throughout turns, and the supply is what you may be able to use to reinforce the deck as you go along. Once those are exhausted, or certain victory conditions from cards being exhausted are reached, then you win or lose the game accordingly. And each unit, as you can see here, will generally have, I'll just zoom that in. So this, for example, yellow 1 Hurricane Squadron will have 1 card in the deck and 2 in supply. And once he's lost those 3 cards, he's eliminated. But it's important sometimes to move from supply into deck, because you can get caught in a situation where if you've got cards in supply but nowhere else, you may lose him earlier. So it's all about management of the hand, making decisions. You can never do what you want to do. Interestingly, my brother, who hadn't played Undaunted before, played it for the first time last night, so it was quite interesting to see how he picked the game up as well. But we've only played that first contact scenario, so I'll talk a little bit about that later on. But then as you go through, each of the scenarios adds in new elements to the game, such as clouds, such as ships, anti-aircraft batteries, balloons, night raids, lots of other things. And then you get to the final scenario, the Battle of Britain Day, the Blitz, which, as you can see there, there's a lot going on. Lots of things going on there. It gets very, very interesting, especially when you start to bring in things like German bombers, the Heinkel, the Dorniers, etc. as well. So that's the rules and the scenarios. Counters, as always, are beautiful. I love the colours that they've used, very vibrant. They stand out really well on the table. Lovely artwork. Very similar, again, in quality and layout to the previous games, with the information you need on each of the counters. So, for example, if we look at Spitfire 1 here in the purple, has a defence of 5. And that is its fire scope is forward only. Whereas if you look at the Defiant, for example, he can only fire using the turret to the sides and the rear. He cannot fire forward, but he only has a defence of 4. So you can see again how those work. We've got things like ships, anti-aircraft batteries. We've got some very exciting looking bombers on here. So for me, the one that jumped out straight away was this Heinkel with all-round fire and a defence of 7. But its fire is not very effective. Obviously it's trying to bomb, so therefore it's a bit like a pillbox. It's going to take a lot of shooting down, but it's not going to bite very much to fellow aircraft. But as you can see there, nice quality components, beautiful artwork, as to be expected from Osprey. They seem to have fixed things from the previous reinforcements issues that they had. Colour schemes, everything seems to be blended very nicely. You've got your typical D10s. It's a D10 system, and then you've got lots of these hex based counters, which you use to lay out the table. These are all double-sided, so you've got an unlimited number of potential ways that you could set up tables. Obviously you've got the scenarios, but you could easily design your own. You can see they're beautifully designed. The one thing I would say is that this is very different, certainly from the games I've played in the Undaunted series, where it was a square system. But I think when you're dealing with planes or potentially ships in the future, hexes make far more sense from a manoeuvrability and arcs point of view. If there was one thing I was going to not criticise but comment on, would probably be just the thickness is not to the same thickness of the square tiles in the previous games. However, the caveat to that is there seems to be quite a few more. But how these will survive under a lot of play, I don't know. One thing we did notice was that they moved around a lot, even on a cloth last night on the table. So one thing we would consider is maybe setting out the map and then putting plexi over the top. I think that would steady that a little bit more and protect the tiles as well. Just my own comments. Again, nice to see that they've put a full component tray in there that you can utilise for the game, so everything fits snugly into the box. And then you've got your usual cards. I'm not going to undo these yet, but well, maybe I will. What the heck? Let's see if we can get in here and just show you some of them. There you go. These are the allies. Cardstock, same quality as before. Artwork, absolutely gorgeous. I think it's self-explanatory, really. I love the artwork. These are often names of historical pilots, etc. Not sure if they've used the same approach with this one or not. I know they certainly did in other games. And there's some different elements to this, to the typical Undaunted. Of course, this is aeroplanes. It's not troops on the ground and tanks and vehicles. So fog is now Discord. Pretty much the same beast. It's still an absolute pain, and it adds friction into the game. You can never quite do what you want to do. But you got some other little interesting elements in there, like the guide function, the coordinate function. But a lot of the other elements are very similar. I like the little communications thing here. So if your planes in a particular section are out of communication with each other, they're not within 2 hexes, then that causes more discord and adds more discord into your deck, which in turn means more friction. But you can see there's some really some interesting dynamics. So that's the British, just to show you those. And if we see if we can just open up the German deck as well, for the show you all of that as well. There we go, marvellous. And again, very similar, beautiful artwork, really top class. Can't complain. Love the colours, very vibrant, very easy to see. Yeah, done a great job. Hats off to Osprey on that one. So that's a little unboxing of the game. Initial thoughts, having played a game last night, I thought it was absolutely great fun. It plays just like the other Undaunted games. My brother, who was new to the Undaunted experience, enjoyed it. He's not an aeroplane wargamer. I'm not really either, but this was clever. There's some very clever mechanics with the aircraft, where you could do 2 actions, and if you want to maneuver, you have to move first, so that's your 2 actions. If you want to move and attack, you can't maneuver as well, so you're kind of again put in this situation where you have to make decisions and plan ahead about what you want to do. But overall, we had a great crack. The British lost one of their Boltons fairly early on in their first scenario, but we fought back and took out 2 of the German aircraft to win the scenario. But to be fair, my friend and myself had played this in the other versions many times, so my brother was a newbie to the Undaunted series, and by his own nature said he would do things potentially different in future games. But overall, I think this series, Battle of Britain, brings Undaunted back for me to its roots, which is a game that you can buy for potentially under 30 quid. Great components. It's a great game whether you're just a gamer or a war gamer, or maybe someone new to gaming, because it's not a war game in its own sense of the word. And I think there's potential for reinforcements to this game as well. You've got potential to bring in other nationalities. You know, you could have Polish and Czechs, and you could have Americans, you could have Russian front, Japanese, Pacific. You could you know, bring in lots of extra elements into this air war based game, if you so wanted. But of course, there are so many other potential expansions available for Undaunted. Things have been voiced around Pacific, I know. I've heard some mentions online of maybe small scale MTB, S-boat, E-boat kind of scenarios. So I think there's a lot of potential with this series. It'd be great to see where it goes. It's not good for the wallet, not good for space on my gaming shelf with these big boxes, but they are a great game and they're great fun. So hope you've enjoyed this little video, an unboxing and a kind of mini review of our first experience of playing Undaunted, Battle of Britain from Osprey Games by David Thompson and Trevor Benjamin. See you all soon.